Hey, what's up everybody, and welcome back to the channel. In today's video, we're going to be talking about the 2023 Rebel 500. At the end of this video, I'm going to do my best to tell you whether or not this motorcycle right here is a good buy, or if you should be saying goodbye. We're going to do a quick walk around, talk about a couple of specs, go over a couple of features. I'm going to give you guys an exhaust clip, and then I'll take you out for a test ride and bring you back for the final verdict. And before we get going, if you enjoy this kind of content, you want to see more stuff like this, consider hitting that subscribe button and dropping a like on this video so we can reach more people who want to know about these motorcycles. One last thing before we get started, I want to give a big shout out to Big St. Charles Motorsports, who this video is brought to you in part by, for donating me this Rebel 500 for the day so I can tell you all about it. Be sure to give them a call here at this phone number on the screen. Let them know that Omnimoto sent you from his YouTube videos. And if you really like this motorcycle by the end of this video, you can visit them at bigstcharlesmotorsports.com. Alright, enough of that. Let's talk about the Honda Rebel 500. Starting up at the front, we have a single 296mm disc. This disc is pinched between a twin-piston Nissan caliper. Suspension in the front is a conventional setup for the fork. It is 41mm in diameter, and at this price point, it features no adjustability. Rear brake setup on this motorcycle features a 240mm disc pinched between a single piston caliper, again from Nissan. And in the rear, our shocks are twins with one on either side, and they use a progressive spring rate so they are more tightly wound up top, and then they spread out a little bit further apart as you make your way down the spring, all the way down to this preload collar, which is your 1 point of adjustment. And the heart of the beast features Honda's parallel twin 471cc dual overhead cam, liquid-cooled engine. Based on a lot of sources online, I speculate that this engine makes, we'll just call it 48 horsepower. And a lot of sources say 29.9 pound-foot of torque, but we'll just call it 30 pound-foot of torque. Which are some pretty decent numbers. That's not terrible, but it's not the best in its class. But I don't know if Honda's focused on being the best. I think they're focused on being efficient. And that's why this little motor gets anywhere between 60 to 70 miles per gallon, which is pretty stinking efficient. Curb weight on this motorcycle comes in at 408 pounds. That means fuel, oil, and coolant, wet and ready to ride. Seat height is incredibly low on this machine. For reference, I'm about 6'1", my pants measure a 32 inch inseam, and if I sit on this motorcycle, you can see I'm in a pretty comfortable position. Both of my feet hit the ground perfectly flat. I've got a little bit of a bend in my knees. This is going to give you so much confidence if you're looking at this as your first motorcycle. Alright, that covers most of the specs. Let's go over a couple of features and just kind of talk about how the motorcycle looks up close.
So the first thing that really jumps out to me about the Rebel 500, I love these bronze wheels, man. My Grom has bronze wheels. I think bronze wheels just really give a motorcycle, a car, a truck, anything a unique appearance. I love the bronze wheels. It's a nice touch. They give you LED lighting all the way around. These blinkers that they're putting on these Honda motorcycles today look a lot better than they did just a year ago, and this LED headlight up front gives you excellent visibility in low light scenarios and gives you plenty of lighting out in front of you so you can see where you're going in the dark. The rear tail section of this motorcycle is pretty clean. Also, pretty low profile fender. Doesn't look too bad back there. It's not too gaudy, and you get those LED blinkers in the rear as well. The twin shocks are exposed in the rear, giving you kind of that raw look. The exhaust is a little bit of an eyesore, but it does what it's supposed to do, makes the bike EPA compliant, and you can always change this out after the fact, so don't get too hung up on that. I definitely feel a certain way about the lines of the Rebel. I like the exposed frame and how it definitely makes up the profile of the motorcycle, and everything's really easy to get to. The profile of the bike is for you to decide on whether or not you like, not just me. I kind of like the way it looks with the tall tank in the front. Kind of harkens back to the custom motorcycles of yesteryear. And looks fairly decent. It complements the engine pretty nicely. And speaking of that, this is one detail I really like. The oil filter is super easily accessible, and you can actually get your hand back in there pretty easy. Look at that. I've got gloves on with big knuckles on them, and I can still get my hand all the way around it. So for guys that like to do maintenance at home and don't want to take it to a shop, that's a really nice touch for a quick, easy, simple oil change. This is another sore spot for me on this motorcycle. The dash is just kind of lackluster. It's super small, hard to read. I know my camera's not really picking it up, but it's got a few things on it like a gear position indicator, your fuel level, and miles per hour, which is all you really need. You got Trip A and Trip B and all that stuff, but what bike doesn't have that? I just think that Honda could do something a little bit better. It doesn't really justify, for me, what you pay for this bike, and I think that you should get something a little nicer. The buttons and whatnot are all pretty decent, though. They're fit and finished pretty well. They have nice positive clicks, but they don't differentiate them between the 300 and 500 platforms, so it's really just kind of a motor that you're getting when you move up to the Rebel 500 and the bronze wheels, and I think that's about it. Everything else is pretty much the same. But now that we're through all of that, I'm going to get you guys that exhaust clip that I promised you, so here you go, have a listen. Alright, now that that portion is out of the way, let's get into the test ride.
Hello all and welcome to the test ride portion of the video. This is the part where we'll just kind of be rambling and giving our running dialogue, monologue, whatever you want to call it, on how we feel about the Rebel 500. And so far, I gotta tell you, she's buttery smooth. It almost suffers from the Honda problem, which is motorcycles that do everything you ask them to do, but they almost feel like a shell of a motorcycle that once had so much heart, spunk, and pizzazz, and now is just kind of focused on filling a role, and they just, like, I don't know, they almost make a template motorcycle, you know? It's hard to explain. The Rebel is such a good bike, it's such a good platform, it's so beginner friendly, and it's so customizable, and you can do anything you want with it, but I don't know. You know, it's not a bad bike at all. I will never fault Honda for making a bad bike because I don't think that they have the problem of making bad bikes. They have a problem of making boring bikes.
Boring!
But anyway, we're going to do a quick low speed test. We're going to try to go from this white line, not to that one, but turn in before that second one right over there, just to kind of get a feel for how the bike leans in at low speed. So here we go. We're going to come up and around. Easy peasy. Hit our mark. There we go. Get a feel for the brakes. Let's accelerate quickly and come to a controlled stop. Oh yeah. That's nice. Can we do that again without putting our foot down? Let's try it. Here we go. Speed up. Gently apply, squeeze, and stop. I had to put my foot down. All right. We've got a good feel for how this bike behaves, though. Let's go take it out on the roadways and get a feel for some actual world use. I like where my feet are at. I was initially a little bit worried about having the problem of my knees feeling like they're in my chest when I got on this bike, but they've got the pegs situated low enough that that's not a problem for me, really. We got all of 1 mile on this motorcycle, 2 miles now. The little 500cc power plant definitely is a little buzzy. You feel it in those upper RPMs as I'm raking through right now. Oh man, 50 miles per hour, 4th gear. I've got a lot of vibration in my hands right now. Of course I can, you know, shift up a gear and lower those RPMs. I can even click it into 6th. And a lot of that has disappeared. Oh, looks like we got ourselves a sheriff. I see you, boy. How you doing? For cruising at 45 miles per hour on some of these side roads, you know, going through some small towns, the Rebel really fills that role quite well. And especially like around in the city, this would be a great bike for that also. This would be a really, really good city bike. It's got enough power where if you needed to hop on a major interstate like Highway 70 here going through St. Louis, you have more than ample power to do that and maintain your speed at 70 miles an hour, and even click down a gear, grab the throttle, and accelerate to make a pass if you're in a compromising situation. The suspension, this is pretty spongy suspension. I don't know if you guys can see how much that's moving, but that is quite soft in the front. The shifting is, I don't know, it feels pretty precise to me. You know, I'm sure that there are some Euro trash riders out there who come from like BMWs and Ducatis, or Ducati, however you guys say it, and Aprilias, who just have the most precise gearboxes ever developed. But this is a Japanese bike starting under $7,000. Wow, look at that chopper. Cool. Hey, you looking for some sweet motorcycle gear that looks vintage, retro, and is made of quality materials all the way through? Check out my friends at Foggy Garage. To learn more about them, go visit their Instagram page, go visit their website. Be sure to use code OMNI10 before you check out to get 10% off of your order. That's www.foggygarage.com. But again, like I was saying, this is a Japanese bike with a price tag that starts under $7,000. So it's not going to have the most premium components and premium finishes and premium feel to it. But for what you pay, you do get a very well-rounded package. And you can purchase the Rebel with ABS as well, but there's Honda doing Honda things again, just like the other Japanese manufacturers as well. It's not just Honda, but they make you pay for ABS, and I don't know that I agree with that. I feel like at this point, they should be giving it to you at no additional cost, kind of like another manufacturer does, who I feature on this channel quite often, even though I don't sell them. That would be CF Moto. You can check out a competitive model to this motorcycle by clicking the link up in the top right of this video, that little video card there, to learn a little bit more about what they bring to the table and what their machine is going to have as far as features, benefits, and advantages when looking at options like this. Quick note on the brakes. For the first 20% of lever pull, there's really not a whole lot there, and then you feel it. Not the most powerful setup, but not a bad setup. Oh, I'm speeding. I'm not even meaning to speed. Easy to do that on a motorcycle, though. Oh, look at this. Electric scoot, followed by a fat bob. That man does not wave at Japanese motorcycles. That was a real hoss right there. I'm not having a bad time, though, guys. I keep kind of like nitpicking at this bike because I'm trying to find things to complain about. Because I find, you know, a lot of my reviews are pretty positive and saying a lot of good things about the bike. It's almost like I'm shilling for the bike, even though I'm not getting paid by the company to shill for it. But, you know, I don't want you guys to think this is a biased review coming from a place of, you know, not being genuine, because I try to be as genuine as possible with all of you. It is easy to ride, you know, it's really, really, really easy to ride. And I appreciate that for a new rider. You know, there's the Rebel 300, which gives you like a 20 horsepower decrease, but really I think you can start on the 500 and you'll get a lot more utility out of a bike like this, because it'll last you a little bit longer. And, you know, being intimidated by the throttle initially is not a bad thing, because you'll learn to respect it and you'll respect the power that it has. So the seat, I could really see how this seat over a long distance would not be super comfortable. It's ample enough for me. I'm about 180 pounds and I'm a narrow guy, so I fit on the seat pretty nicely. It's decent, but I could see how if you were a larger individual, say, you know, 200 plus pounds with a more wide frame, you might not fit on the seat as well as I do. But for me, it's comfortable, but I'm not you, so take that with a grain. You know, I talked about this in my Eliminator 450 video, which is a very competitive model to this machine from Kawasaki. You can check that video out up in the top right. Compared to that bike, this bike doesn't feel as punchy. The Eliminator definitely feels like it has more spunk to it, if that makes sense. And I think that we'll see that reflected in this little 0 to 60 test I'm about to do for you. I don't have anyone behind me. I think we're pretty well good to go. All right, we're gonna do a full 0 to 60 launch, and we'll just see what we can get done. So here we go. 3, 2, 1. I did bounce it off the rev limiter there, and you know, that is probably largely in part due to the fact that I cannot see my tachometer. I don't have an RPM gauge on here. I'm really not a fan of not having a sweeping RPM tachometer on here somewhere. It's just a piece of missing information, in my opinion, on a bike like this, especially at this price point. And I think there are some things that Honda could do to the 500 that would make it stand out a little bit more from the 300, because as of now, all they're doing to really incentivize you to go for the 500 is giving you more power out of the motor. But that's really about it. So, you know, everything else is pretty much the same. The hand controls, the lights, all of that stuff. I don't know. I feel like there's more that Honda can do with this bike to make it more attractive, and they're just not doing it. But it's not a bad package. And for highway commuting, let's see, you know, just how well it can do. I'm getting a lot of wind noise, definitely noticing that. 75 miles per hour. I'm holding this steady. If I need to accelerate, I can open it up, pick up a few miles per hour. You know, the bike is definitely, that motor's turning for sure. Yeah, I'd say this little 500's probably got, I don't know, 105, 110 miles per hour in it if you really get a nice day where there's no wind and you have an open straight stretch. But if you're using it for commuting, you know, an hour at a time, this bike is capable. Even a commute longer than that, I think this bike could handle it. The motor's designed to turn at those kinds of RPMs, so I'd say that's a safe assumption that you can make, is that this is a good commuting motorcycle. It's not the best, it's not the worst, it's just a good commuting motorcycle. And if you want a versatile package that's good for around town and the highway, this is a great one. All right, let's head back to the dealership and let's get our final closing thoughts, and let's reach a verdict on who this bike is and is not for. Okay, now let's talk about who this bike is for. This bike is for someone who wants an overall well-rounded package. As I was coming back, I was really thinking about how this motorcycle can do everything you ask it to do. Do you want to get on the highway? Cool, let's get on the highway. Do you want to drive around town and not try to keep all the power tame and, you know, underneath of you? Fine, it's only a 500. Do you want to get out and go hit some twisty back roads with some decent handling even though you're on a cruiser? Sure, get on the Rebel 500. Are you looking for a bike you can grow with but doesn't have too much power? Rebel 500. Do you need a low seat height but you don't want to compromise on displacement and power output? Rebel 500. Do you want something that can kind of teach you how to wrench on your own motorcycles, is easy to work on, and is very simple to understand? Sure, Rebel 500. It's a good first bike, it's a good second bike, it's a good whatever bike you want it to be, and that's what's so great about the Honda Rebel 500. So for all of those reasons, I think it's a good buy. Now the flip side to that coin, the Rebel 500, it's not the best highway commuter, but like I just said, it can do it. It's just not ideal for it. So if you want something long haul, very long distance, maximum comfort, maximum wind protection, maximum features, Rebel 500 is probably not for you. If you want an absolute crazy batshit powerhouse, Rebel 500, definitely not for you. This is a very mild-mannered and polite engine. Do you need a lot of storage on your motorcycle? Because if so, let me tell you something, the Rebel 500 is absolutely not for you. There is no storage on this motorcycle, aside from a very, very small space underneath the driver's seat. Do you want a motorcycle that sounds really tough? Well, I'm going to go ahead and say the Rebel 500 is, once more, not for you. Even with an aftermarket exhaust setup on it, it doesn't sound very, how do I put this? Tough. It sounds more so like a Honda lawnmower. You be the judge. Have a listen. It would be great if Honda gave us a 270-degree crank and made it sound something like this. So, for all of those reasons, I think the Honda Rebel 500 is probably, well, a good buy. And that's all I have. So now, let's go to the outro.
Hello everybody. Thank you so much for watching and making it to the end of the video. It's because of viewers like you, I continue to make these videos and create this content. If you like the content that you just watched, how about hitting that like button and then tapping on that little subscribe icon underneath of my name. That's the best way to help me out so I can continue making content like this for you all. If there's something I missed or something that you think I got wrong, please let me know in the comments below. And don't forget, head over to BigSt.CharlesMotorsports.com to check out all of the amazing inventory that they carry. From the Japanese Big Four brands, to the Can-Am three-wheelers, and the little Austrian KTM company. They carry some really awesome products, so be sure to check them out at BigSt.CharlesMotorsports.com or contact them at the phone number on this screen to talk to one of the members of the sales team and get all your questions answered. I don't have anything else to add for you guys. I just want to say thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you have a wonderful week. Be kind and ride safe.